Beyond immediate recruitment needs, executive search companies extends beyond with valuable expertise when it comes to the modern business landscapes through placements. Talking Point connects with Mr. Azeem Ansar, the founder as well as the chairman of Career 141. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sabrina.
Strengthening the hiring process through a personalized executive search needs expertise. What are the key concerns that the executive search companies should take into account when sourcing the most suitable candidates?
All right. So, with regards to executive search companies in a country, I think they become an integral partner for each corporate client. Why? Because the companies actually become an entity which has ethical sourcing as a practice. So ethical sourcing becomes a practice which brings about the best of the breed talent, because the talent actually out there who is there becomes a source of trust with the ethical sourcing practices. So towards this, companies who are in executive search firm who are there in a country would have been there in existence for about 10 years, 20 years, so on and so forth, which would have built a strong network towards their entire existence. So here what happens is the confidentiality aspect is very important between both the client's privacy and the candidate's privacy. This is very important. So towards the years of expertise in executive search, an executive search firm actually builds a lot of trust with the market, where the market is actually comfortable liaising with them. So this brings about what we could say as a factor where the companies would be able to reach out people who they are not able to reach out. What we call in our language is tap the untapped. Yeah. So in other words, we actually bring about for discussion the people who are not looking for jobs. This is the difference, not the job seekers. So the job seekers actually are the ones who apply for jobs when it is advertised in the portals, when it's advertised in the newspapers, so on and so forth. But actually, majority who the client wants to meet are the ones who are not looking for jobs. So this is something where the executive search firm alone in any country, in any region, it can be Europe, it can be US, it can be South Asia, Asia, the executive search firm only could bring these candidates across to the table. So this way what happens is the executive search firm puts its best foot forward, and what predominantly happens with executive search firm is they actually do a lot of headhunting, say 80% into headhunting, which means also understanding the characteristics of the client in depth, right? So let's say, for example, we go into a client meeting. The client meeting would be pretty much into in-depth understanding their requirement. When you say their requirement, it's also about understanding their worry. You see, the client actually has a requirement when it comes to the corporate nature, as for example, they could say it's a CFO, they could say it's a CMO, they could say it's a CEO, but actually there's a worry behind it. So as an executive search firm, what we need to do is we need to understand the worry and accordingly pitch. So we always go into the discussion with a blank page, and it's never a day where it's always a bespoke operation. It's never a what you could call a one size fit for all operation. It's definitely a customized operation that we go on. So this is why executive search firms become so integral. One, to bring the best of the breed candidates who are out there, who are not looking for jobs, but to convince them with the goodwill that we have, and also to propose, for example, let's say a startup company or a SBU of a large blue chip, which is not known out there, right? So the executive search firm actually creates a greater goodwill, pitches the opportunity plus the company to the candidate in the best possible manner, where they also would want to have a discussion. and the company and the executive search firm also gives a better understanding about the scope of the work, so on and so forth, from where he or she is currently. This allows the candidate to come into a confidential discussion, maybe outside office, and understand the scope and marry into the scope which is proposed. So this actually allows the client to save a lot of time, a lot of energy, and also focus on onboarding the candidate as fast as possible. Yeah. So I think that's one of the unique competitive advantages that they have.
Severe limitations are being experienced by recruiters and their clients since many are seeking to employ new talent. Virtual interviews have become widespread and probably might be a permanent fixture in the future. Is this an effective solution in replacing a face-to-face interview?
Yes. So, good question there. I mean, in terms of interviews, Sabrina, interviews is a point where you actually start to absorb your talent and visualize your next change maker who's going to come in there, right? So in this context, one has to be how can I put it, one has to be as much as possible, let's say towards at least about 90% comfortable in terms of absorbing the person. But yes, so I mean, in today's context, time versus the objective is happening for the client as well as the candidate. In this context, yes, virtual interviews are recommended, and you can go ahead with round 1, round 2, round 3, so on and so forth, which actually saves time and which is more meaningful for the candidate as well as the client. It can be confidential interviews, or it might be interviews in-house also. But still, the interviews are not actually finishing with one series. It's not like one interview and you're done. It actually takes at least about 3 to 4 levels of interviews in today's context. It can be local, it can be within the country or outside the country. It's the same story. However, in our experience, for final decisions, the client has always maintained bringing the candidate towards a physical session. This is very important. End of the day, it's humans who are going to marry into the new challenge, right? So both has to have a one-on-one session. This is a must. It's a change maker actually that they are looking for. So you could have a good virtual session for sure, but there what happens is during the virtual session, one could actually be a talent who is more comfortable behind the screen, who is comfortable talking behind the screen most of the time. Or for example, some interviews happen on telecon, so they're very comfortable on telecon. But you're actually looking for leaders who can lead, leaders who can change people, leaders who people can look up to, leaders who can be creative, leaders who can actually make a mark for the client. These characteristics you would not be able to judge by just having a verbal virtual conversation. This is definitely not possible. Towards this, my clients, in my experience, it can be Middle East, it can be Europe, it can be Fiji Islands, it can be Bangladesh. We're talking about people who are getting anything from $5,000 to $35,000. All of them have been going for the final interview paid by the client and meeting the client. And it's more personalized. And mind you, Sabrina, it's necessarily not only about, it doesn't mean that you're selected. This is the best part. It definitely does not mean it's selected. We have had candidates, maybe about 3 to 4 candidates going back to back. Why? Because the client actually was very satisfied with the virtual interview, but when met physically, it actually didn't meet that particular requirement.
Not impressive.
Well, I would say, the market is very demanding. The market is very demanding.
That is one of the main reasons.
Main reasons. The clients, the client has his own customers who are very demanding. how they would want this individual to sort of collaborate, cooperate, and build business and build relationship. Some aspect would be missing somewhere, and this only can be seen when someone walks into the room with the body language, with the personality. End of the day, it's the human touch. It's not only about your MBAs or your doctorates or the companies that you work. It's also about the personalized soft skills that you built, and the body language interpersonal skills plays a lot. So this is the game changer at the end of the day. So for this, I believe it's very important that all companies practice the last selection point to be a physical one. And I think, the companies today are doing that. They're doing all the referral checks, they're doing the psychometric tests, they're doing every barrier. But hats off to all the clients that we have locally and overseas. Everyone makes their final call by bringing their candidates to a physical session. So yes, to answer your question, virtual is definitely helping in today's context. There's no two words about it. But I guess it still doesn't beat the human element coming into play.
Expedites the process, but not emphatically.
Absolutely.
Recruitment prior to globalization was chiefly generalized with a haphazard approach. How does the globalization and the constant changing of the business landscape have an impact on recruitment methodologies?
Today's context with regard to globalization and how it has impacted the business. It's actually it's a tremendous change, I would say, in terms of talent facing a global change and a globalization happening. In simple, what happens is globalization means it actually has made the globe more smaller in a corporate sense to start with, right? So what happens is the global boundaries, so-called boundaries as countries, is no more. For example, individuals are working for foreign countries from their own country also currently, to start with. So the whole perception of work culture has become smaller, and no more do you have to really be confined to your own country in terms of your aspirations of moving your career forward, to start with. So this has a lot of pluses. But before coming to that, let me answer your question. In terms of how it has changed the world from then to now, right? So back in the days where, if we take 20 years back, where we did not have LinkedIn per se, right? So there the headhunting was done in a very organic way, I would say, where, for example, if for example a multinational client wants a marketing director, right? So you just have a click of a button today and you would have ample marketing directors coming in, you would know who is where, yeah, and you would be able to target and so on and so forth. But back in the days, it was actually real hardcore effort to network with individuals and get to know individuals personally. Today, you wouldn't know. You see in LinkedIn that you have an ex-candidate who is related to this candidate, and you can say, hi, how are you? And you can maybe relate to him. But here on the good old days, you had to actually do your hard work, meet them in the hotels, meet X many people as possible through X many contacts and so on and so forth. To just think about how we did it back in those days, if you ask me, I wouldn't know how to relate. But it did happen, and it did happen in a very organic, very what can you call it, in a very humble way. And we had a lot of good interactions. So today, if you say we meet a person, actually it means like you met a person virtually, you corresponded virtually, you had a telecon, you had a video session, and that's the meeting that you had. But back in the days, it was real human interaction, and this built great relationships. And this actually made us, who are executive search headhunters, to become real hardcore people who are able to gauge the individuals who we meet in today's context in a snap of a time, because we have done our groundworks back then by meeting, understanding, meeting X many times and building the relationship, understanding them more intimately. understanding their ups and downs more in a lengthy conversation, so on and so forth. So doing this for about good 10 years allows us to benchmark a candidate very well in terms of who they are, what they are, what they're made out of. Are they change makers? Are they routine players? Are they creative ones? Are they thriving, self-confident ones? These are assessments that we are able to do because we've done our hard work back then. In today's context, yes. So what happens is the entire game has changed into a virtual platform, right? So there is a lot of pluses in that. In terms of the time management for the corporate world. It has become in a snap of the finger, yeah. And in terms of executive search companies also, we tend to actually broaden our horizons by meeting many more people in a shorter time. And that actually allows the company to have a greater flavor of talent to make a decision on, right? Having said that, it all boils down to still the same old game, Sabrina, where you can take another 10 years more, another 20 years more. Still, unless you have the knack to understand the DNA of the company and the talent that they want, it can be back then, it can be now, it can be tomorrow in the future. Still, you would not be able to meet that requirement. You have to have that expertise and the human touch of being able to understand the DNA that is required, understand the company culture, understand the current concern, understand the future concern that they have, understand the reporting structure, understand what age group, understand all that, which I believe today's technology would not be able to meet. Technology like AI is really aspiring, really good. It actually can amplify and bring an array of CVs for you to analyze. But would that mean that you can actually gauge all that discussion that you had with the CEO or the chairman or the top senior line manager, who put across your worry? Like, for example, in an executive search firm, we don't look at the client's concern as a job order. We take it as a worry of a client. So the worry of a client actually becomes our worry as well until it's fulfilled. But however, we do stick to time spans like 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months maximum to conclude and reach the objective of the client. But in this context, the grand finale or the final thing boils down to the technology AI can bring all the array of CVs that you want, the flavors you want. It can be from Kenya, it can be from Asia. I once had a situation where I had to get an HR director for a top company which has about 15 businesses in its portfolio. So the hunt started from US to Europe to Middle East, right up to Hong Kong, then even HR directors from the Australian side as well. So speaking to an array of people is definitely only possible because of the technology. There's no two words about it. But for me to finally make the call and give about 5 to 8 profiles out of this, I certainly don't think AI would have that final call. So it will always boil down to that element of what can you call screening, judging, and carving down that exact game changer that the company wants. Will be all about how, as an executive search firm, as a headhunter and experienced campaigner, you are able to understand the worry of the client and bring that exact match. So this is something that we've seen time and again happen. Yeah. So with regard to globalization, of course, it's a great thing. So I'm coming out of context here a little bit. Yeah. So I think I've answered your question with regard to then and now.
Correct.
Globalization actually is a fantastic thing that has happened recently. Right. What happens with globalization and talent is what we've seen the talent moving out from a country to another country. And here what happens is we see that the talent has to is getting exposed to an array of a new challenge, array of new challenge in a new territory, totally new territory, totally new community. So towards this globalization concept, this particular talent who moved out of the country actually has to absorb a lot of new technology also, which he or she would not have absorbed previously to start with. Then absorb a lot of leadership qualities which he or she would not have practiced in their current country. Absorb a lot of self-confidence, stand tall sort of attitude, and in terms of in terms of risk appetite, in terms of becoming a more international player. All this boils down only because of this globalization. So he could have been a super player here, but he becomes an extraordinary player by going into the global market. In his country, he or she would have been more at a comfort zone. Extraordinary player, but more of a comfort zone. There they will have to go out of their comfort zone in terms of even the basics. Yes, as an expat, they would get good facilities, good benefits and so on and so forth. Still, they're going to lose all their comfort zone in terms of their family, their members, their routine, lifestyle and all that stuff. But they get exposed to an amazing array of, amazing array of exposure in the market, which we have seen for the past 20 years when they come back into Sri Lanka, or even if we take somebody let's say from a Sri Lankan towards Hong Kong and then from Hong Kong towards Vietnam, they've actually excelled. And we also have seen, Sabrina, the whole family, the whole lifestyle changes, the mindset changes into a much more broader perspective. This broader perspective comes back to Sri Lanka after one, at a certain point and brings greater value into Sri Lanka, or for that matter, have taken a lot of individuals from Sri Lanka to become players like them over there, and we see a greater amount of new breed of talent from Sri Lanka, for example, becoming exceptional talent. So thanks to globalization there.
Inspiring employees to perform at their best while aligning strategically with a company's vision and mission are anticipated characteristics of an effective corporate leader. How does this equate to a successful hire in the terms of an effective business leader for an organization?
With regard to talent mapping, Sabrina, it's always we wake up towards a new challenge always. Every day starts with a new challenge, which also means it's a bespoke approach that we have. It never is an approach which is confined to, let's say, one size fits for all sort of approach. It never is so. It's always a customized approach. So especially when it comes to the C-level talent that they're looking for. Towards this, Sabrina, we actually, what our specialization or what our executive search company specialization is, we actually go into an in-depth conversation. We actually have a session with the ExCo team of the company to start with. It could be the chairman, it could be the CEO, it could be the director HR, operations director, or the GM, or the top line manager, who actually meets us and expresses us the concerns that they have. We do go through the JD, which is prepared. However, for us, actually, the real JD is the conversation that we have. This conversation is where, Sabrina, it opens the doors towards meeting the objective of the question that you asked. So towards earmarking the exact individual that the client would want. So towards this, in our session that we would have with them, it would be about the current scenario of the scope, whether it's a new position or whether it's an existing position, how long was this position existing, what are the characteristics that were there in the existing position, what are they looking for in the current position, what are the age groups that they're looking for, what are the expansions that they're looking for. This is very important. Are they looking for expansions out of the country, also would matter. and what is the team size that they would be handling. All these questions come into the play. So this actually gives us a perspective of the figure that we should bring to the table finally. Yeah, and then it also allows us to understand, for example, let's say, in our experience of 20 plus years, if the product is the same product, but we have two different companies, we very well would know these two companies are having the same product, but the culture is different. So we would also want to bring a character which meets all the requirements that they have kept on demand, but we also would focus on the culture fit as well. Yeah. So towards bringing this, Sabrina, what's the speciality of the executive search firm, like I expressed earlier, is always about headhunting. So in headhunting, the client actually has a great advantage because a headhunting process is more focused uniquely in bringing about profiles, let's say with numbers of 3 to 5 profiles. But we would have screened and spoken to about 50 odd individuals, but we would bring down only about 3 to 5 individuals for a discussion. And even here, the specialization is we bring the individuals, like I told earlier, the ones who are not looking for a job at the moment, who are excelling with their careers, who are performing well. So we actually are more, susceptible and more prone towards proposing the scope that the client would have kept to us, to the individuals, and bring them for a confidential discussion. So this actually allows the client towards identifying whether the talent that we bought is actually meeting their requirement. And even if it does not, what we do as an executive search firm, take it as a second challenge by evaluating why the criteria was not met. And then we again go back to the market and do our headhunting back again, so that we can carve down the missing element and bring forth that missing element so that the client can meet. So now this definitely cannot be done by putting advertisements in the portals or newspapers, or for that matter, personally networking. It is that middle executive search firm who has won the confidence of the market, who can be that perfect platform for the client and the candidate to meet. This confidence is there, Sabrina, throughout the world. This comfort zone is there throughout the world, where it's a concierge service, which the candidates who know would always keep a relationship with an executive search firm to bring such openings towards their notice also. So these candidates who we are talking about, who are C-level candidates, would be candidates who purposefully keep a relationship by tapping us at least about 3 to 5 times a year, maybe saying hi, or Happy New Year, or some element of conversation would be there. Why? Because they know, as an executive search firm, we would bring forth the best of the positions that come in the market to their notice. So this actually has been our practice for 20 plus years, and I'm sure all executive search firms do practice this, and the clients actually benefit out of that, where we could bring and conclude their requirement in the shortest possible time frame. And also, we don't stop there. We actually continue to maintain the relationship with the candidate towards about 3 to 4 or 6 months, and see how it's all going, and provide the client a feedback. And up to now, we have had high satisfaction with the client, Sabrina, and that is one of the reasons where I think our business has excelled from Sri Lanka to overseas, not through marketing, actually through word of mouth. So we still consider ourselves as learners in the market, and we do learn on an everyday basis. And these are the challenges that helps us to actually learn and excel. It's not only for me, even for my team, it's always a learning in every challenge that we take.
Finding the ideal candidate is a daunting task. Tell us why Career 141 becomes unique as an executive search service, assisting organizations to improve the hiring process and strengthening the workforce.
Career 141 has been in operation for the past 20 plus years in the Sri Lankan market. And moreover, towards the years, Sabrina, the service has been reaching its excellence by its own hard work and customized approach. Why? Because we actually always marry with the client with their worry. We're we are a company, Sabrina. What I would say is, on a personal note, as a founder, always we didn't look at each, like I emphasized this earlier also, we never looked at a position that came to us as a business perspective. We rather looked at it as of our own, worry that we would want to share and, fulfill the need of the client. So towards this, we added our professional touch to it for sure. There's no two words about it. We would have rendered all our gears towards, fulfilling the position. But definitely, we have been a company close to the hearts of the client. So the client always has felt at home with us. And irrespective of it being a local client or an overseas client, I think as humans, the regions doesn't matter. It actually, it's actually the service, how you render your service in more customized manner, and whether you are actually meaningfully contributing towards the concerns that they put across. So towards this, yes, we have been rendering our services for the past 20 years in a very meaningful manner. And for the past 20 years, it has been same for the candidates also. So the candidates have been closely in touch with us, because how we've actually assessed them, how we've able to sort of help them meet top clients by assessing them correctly and able to sort of make their time meaningful. So it's all about, it's a partnership, right? End of the day, it's a partnership. So when it's a partnership, each of us should ask one question, which is, what is the value that I could bring to you? If there is no value that I could bring to you, then there is no partnership, right? So where we saw value, we always put our best foot forward and ensured that the service is rendered towards the full. Towards this, Career 141 has been able to sort of be a great partner by understanding the requirement of the client, but also very what can I say, very closely connecting the technology towards speeding up our journey also. So today we have one of the largest LinkedIn accounts in the market, and we do adopt a lot of ATSs, new ATSs into our system. Our database is so vast. We go into various strategies, Sabrina. We have at least about nearly 8 to 12 strategies that we work on. Our global expertise, we serve at least about 15 industries, diverse industries, starting from apparel to FMCG to IT, hospitality, to many other 15 different industries, while we are also more specialized today in terms of skill sets. So in Career 141, the client actually gets to have a great time, because we are more speaking in today's context about skill sets. For example, we might talk about continuous improvement, we might talk about health and safety, or we might talk about corporate governance, we might talk about forensic auditing, we might talk about fabric technologies, we might talk about various digital driven aspects. So we have at least 20 different identified skill sets that we are working on. So the clients who come to actually meet us or speak to us have a great time, because we understand where they come from and able to relate to. So the speciality that we also have is the array of industries that we deal with are like from the manufacturing to the marketing sector both. Manufacturing to the service sector both. So we cater towards the back end and the front end equally. So if somebody says, about a fabric technologist or a designer to a maintenance engineer or automation engineer, or they talk about a software engineer to a team lead, whatever, or they talk about a CMO, or they talk about a director finance, they talk about a director manufacturing, they talk about a legal, they talk about, we also do serve the medical field as well. So this array of exposure that we have been blessed with actually allows the client to have a great network, a great time in terms of having meaningful conversations, meaningful processes, meaningful fulfillment time. I think recently we placed a CEO for a top blue chip company within a span of 1 week, if I'm correct. So when the overseas client speaks to us, they say, Azeem, so can we fulfill this in 2 weeks? So everybody talks in terms of numbers and the time periods and the lead periods and so on and so forth. This is actually a good thing for us, because for us it's a challenge also to keep up the standards that we've built. So I think overall, to summarize why Career 141 is one of the best partners to be with, I think the 20 years of ethical sourcing that we do, and majority of our day-to-day challenges are highly bespoke, and we are more focused on headhunting. We are not CV passers. See, we do have one of the largest LinkedIn accounts and the ATS systems and technology in terms of executive search. But Sabrina, the honest truth is those are actually done as a brand marketing tool. When we do publicize on LinkedIn on a daily basis, we would put about 10 to 15 posts. And we do get ample CVs, Sabrina, but those are actually what we can call as, if we get a CV, good and well, but we don't rely on it. I hope the market understands what I'm trying to tell you. It's actually a brand marketing tool where we express the market that we are alive and these are the positions that we are working on. But what we really do on behalf of our clients is headhunting. So we headhunt personally by going and putting the criteria that we've heard from the client onto the LinkedIn, looking into our database, looking into our referral databases, looking into our various other areas of networking and all that. We do a complete cycle of headhunting and revert back to the client. The posts, yes, it does bring an array of people, but it would be, let's say, a 10% chance that we get CVs from the post. So the uniqueness, one of the uniqueness is we are very customized, and we do on behalf of the client put 100% genuine time in terms of headhunting whom they want. So this is one of the unique characteristics, and this is why the clients actually are very happy dealing with Career 141, irrespective of we placing the position or not. We would have still managed to give a very pleasurable, meaningful time. And this is why we always have been blessed with repeat business with the client.
Hiring competent employees is vital for any organization. We were in conversation with Mr. Azeem Ansar, the founder as well as the chairman of Career 141. Thank you so much for connecting.
Thank you so much, Sabrina, for the opportunity that you've given us and to bring Career 141 as an introduction to the market. I'm sure the audience would have enjoyed and understood, and we hope that more audience from Sri Lanka, as well as from, since it's your global CEO magazine, more audience from the global also get acquainted with us, and we would see that opportunity as a blessing for sure. Thank you so much.